Welcome, everyone. This is Jill Hope, and you are listening to episode 4 of the Women with Wealth series. And today we're going to get into a question. It's a question that I challenge all of you to think about and to ask yourself and to start living by. And I'll explain that as we get into this topic today. But first, just a quick bit about what this series is all about if you're new to joining us. The Women with Wealth series is a place that you can land every week to be able to pick up a short but powerful idea that can help you to really live into that bigger life that you dream about. And I've gotten some people asking me about, well, why women with wealth? And what if I don't have wealth? Does that mean I can't watch these videos? Absolutely not. My definition of a woman with wealth is someone who strives for abundance in all areas of their lives, because I believe that we really are wealthy, wealthier than we realize in so many areas in our lives. And so it's really about looking at our lives holistically and being grateful for all the wealth that is truly there and really recognizing it. And at the same time, being willing to step more fully into who you are as an authentic being and to really connect with your soul desires and really move yourself forward, drive yourself forward towards living that bigger life that we all want. The nature of the universe is always about more growth. So, when someone says, well, I'm happy with everything, I don't need more, I like to challenge that a little bit because really, as a human being, you do want more. If you don't, it's because you've stuffed it down and you're not connected to it or you're not willing to look at it for a various number of reasons. And many, many people do that. Many people are not connected to their greater desires. So a woman with wealth is willing to start looking at what those desires are, not making herself wrong for having them, and really starting to step into them and own them. It's also about self-expression. It's starting to say yes to your yes and no to your no. So all of those things in my mind is a woman with wealth, someone who is moving forward in her life, is advancing, is learning more about herself, is moving into greater self-acceptance and love, and ever expanding in who she is and what she's here to do in this world. So let's get into that question that I mentioned at the beginning of today's video. So when I left my corporate career, this was many years ago now, well, 10 years ago, actually, coming up on my 10-year anniversary, actually, I decided I left that corporate job because I wanted to step into my business full time, what I'm doing now. And I was running my business for about 3 years while I was working the corporate job. And when I decided to leave, it was a scary time. It was a really scary time. I had a lot of doubt. I was like, should I really be doing this now? I had a young family at the time. My corporate salary was helping to pay a lot of the bills of our family. And my business was not making the same money that my corporate job was. So there was going to be a gap for a while. And so I had a lot of doubts. And, can I pull this off? Is it going to work? Am I leaving behind a job that I'll later regret leaving? Because I had a really good job. I was respected in the company. I had moved through the ranks. I was at a fairly high level. I was giving up a lot. But I knew it was the right thing to do. And when I was going around telling people, because I was there for 22 years, so when I started telling people that I knew there, which was a lot of people, why I was leaving, I got feedback in one or two ways consistently. It was either where people would say to me, oh, Jill, you're so lucky that you know what your passion is and you know what your purpose is and you're taking that step. I wish I knew what it was that I wanted to do. So that was one group of people. The other group of people would say to me things like, oh, gosh, Jill, you're so lucky that you're doing this. I wish I could step into my dream of, I heard, making jewelry and pottery. Someone had a glass business. They were creating beautiful art pieces with glass, and on and on and on. They all knew what they wanted to do, but none of them were willing to take this sort of scary leap. And I found that so fascinating. And I thought, what is it about what I'm doing here that is so different, that has all of, that has people staying in this job? Because neither of those groups seemed extremely happy with what they were doing there. They all kind of wished that they could do something else. And what I realized for me, and what actually was what allowed me to take that big leap, was I realized that there was a question that I asked myself, and I couldn't live without knowing the answer. And the question that really drove me to make this change was, what if it was possible to live the life that I really dream of, and I didn't go for it? And I literally projected myself into, late in life, looking back over my life, and I looked at myself never taking this risk and then staying in the corporate job. Or what if I did take the risk and it either worked or didn't work? And where I netted out with both of those pictures in my mind was, there was no way that I could literally be fulfilled having not tried this, having not gone 100% in. It wasn't good enough for me to be doing my business on the side while I'm doing the corporate job, because I really wasn't able to give the fullness of me to my business. Like I said, I had a young son. I had a lot of family responsibilities. Of course, I had the corporate job. I couldn't give it my all. I wouldn't have been able to give it the old college try, so to speak. I needed to go all in 100% if I wanted to see, could I actually do this? So it was that question of, really what it came down to was, I wanted to see what was possible for me. And when I step back and I look at that, it really is about my power. It's, how powerful am I? What am I capable of? What can I accomplish in this life? So that brings me to you. What is the question? Because I really do believe we all are driven by a question, a big question in our lives. And it keeps us doing what we're doing, which is either keeping us stuck in the question or running away from the question, which I'll talk about in a minute, or it moves us forward. It has us taking risks and putting ourselves out there and expanding our lives. So I really do believe there is a question that you have that is holding you where you are, which is either moving forward or not, okay? And that's something that only you know, but that I highly recommend that you take a moment, and we're not going to do it now, but after this call, to think about this. Ask yourself that question. What is the question that is driving me right now? What is the question that is influencing my behavior, my decisions, my choices, my habits? What is that big question? What I have seen is that whatever the big question for you is, that question is tied to your purpose. It's probably tied to passions that you have. It is the question that can move you forward. And it's really important to figure this question out, because when things get tough and when those challenges hit, which they hit all of us at different times, it's the question that can bring you back, that can ground you and keep you going, basically. When I was this was years ago, but it actually was it was happening quite frequently several years ago. I kept hitting this point in my business where, things were really a struggle for a while. And I would get to these certain points where I would say out loud around my family, like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I think I've got to quit. I can't go on. And every single time when I would say that, my son, and he started saying this from a very young age, because this was especially earlier on, he would say, "Mommy, you can't quit your business. You have worked so hard. You can't quit." And he would always say that same thing. And it was so sweet. And it always sort of made me take a step back And what I realized was it's not that I can't quit because I worked so hard. It's that I can't quit because then I'm giving up on the question. Then I'm not really getting to the end of that question and finding out the answer. Because surely, if I were to quit at that point, that wasn't everything I was capable of. That wasn't me seeing everything that's possible for me. I knew that wasn't me giving it my all. So for me to quit on myself, I was quitting on my question, the question that was driving me. And basically, I was quitting on my purpose. So, what is the question for you? That is really what I invite all of you to be able to settle into. And if you think about the word question for a minute, in the question is quest. And I really do think it is our quest. What is that quest for you that keeps you moving forward? And possibly you're not in your actual quest at this moment. So it's worth maybe doing that exercise that I did for myself, where I put myself at the end of my life and I looked back over where I am now and where that, made up endpoint is. None of us really know, right? But that endpoint when there's no more time. And what question do I need to answer for myself to feel satisfaction at that endpoint in my life? And it really was, I need to see what I'm capable of. I need to see how powerful I am in being able to live into my dreams. Okay. So you want to figure out what that is for you. Now, last week I did this meditation, and I meditate weekly, probably a couple times a week, 2, 3 times a week. And then I'll do some journaling after. And this meditation was very, very different. I may have mentioned this last week, but I don't think I went into the details. So what came to me in this meditation, I don't usually have really visual meditations. This was extremely visual. I was handed a key, and I was standing outside this amazing home, and I was handed this key, and it was like I was supposed to go in this home with this key. And so I put the key in the door and I walked into this home, and it was like, I'm home. It was so, so beautiful. And I walked through each of the rooms. It was just, it lit me up. I was having so much fun. I was walking through the rooms. Then I was envisioning my family being in this home with me. There was a basketball court for my son. There was a little gym. I mean, I was envisioning doing my business from there, having people in and hosting people there as part of my business. And I was just playing in this scene. I was literally in a whole scene that was unfolding, and it was really real. It felt so real. And so I kind of pulled myself out of it for a minute, and I was trying to figure out, well, where is this home? Because I'm always kind of looking at real estate and looking around, and I've never really been able to settle on where do I want to be. And that's a key piece to being able to find the home that you're looking for. And so I was hopeful that, maybe I'll see where it is that, where is this place that I need to be? And it was so unclear. There were actually really no clues. There were no clues as to where this home was. So it was really just about the space and what I was needed to do and wanted to do and would do in that space. And then as I started to journal, what hit me was, and it was jarring. I started calculating in my mind places that I would potentially want to have another home. And those places are expensive. I just happen to want to live in places like cities or by beaches or, places where it's more costly. And so I took based on what I was seeing as the home in my meditation, I sort of calculated in my head and did a little bit of research of, well, how much would a place like that cost in one of these areas that I tend to like to look in? And I came up with this number. I mean, the number just like popped in my head, and it was, I would have to earn so much more than I've ever contemplating earning before. And it was really, it was exciting, and it was also very scary. It felt like a huge stretch. It brought up a lot of self-doubt. And then I realized that, hang on a second, Jill, let's look at universal truth. And the truth is that if you can conceive of something in your mind, that means that the way to create that is simultaneously here. It's here right now. It wouldn't be possible for you to have it in your field as something that you could even imagine and picture if it wasn't possible for you to also create that in the physical. And actually, once you conceive it in your mind, that you've actually done a big part of the creation. Now it's just, you're literally bringing it down into the physical. So I knew that, well, even though it feels like a stretch and it feels kind of scary, but also kind of exciting, that it's possible. And I had to really settle into the reality that it's possible. And so, and it also brought me back to this, my quest, my question: what is possible for me? How powerful am I really? So it's back to that question again. And because I always keep that question at the forefront of pretty much everything I do, when that vision came to me, I see that is in response to that question. And I also see it as sort of okay, Jill, time to think a little bigger now. There's more that's possible for you. You are more powerful than what you are currently manifesting. So I share that story because when you keep that question, whatever that question is for you, when you keep that in your heart and you move through your days with that question in your heart, your intuition will be sending you messages. Opportunities will come up that align with that question. That, oh, you want to see what's possible? Let me give you this image. This is possible for you. And you'll be given those opportunities, those ideas, those inspirations that can keep you growing and moving towards the answer to that question. The other thing that this has kind of brought up for me, and it's real, this is so important, and it's also so trite, but it has to be said, is that, and I've only been coming to this realization, like when I say realization, I've known it in my head for decades, but when I'm talking about a realization, it's where, oh, I get it, right? And it's this idea that it's never really about the end point. It's never really about the thing. Like if it's a certain amount of money, it's never about the money. It's about the thing that you think the money will give you. Like we use the house example. It's not really about the house. It's about what I think that house is going to give me. And for me, it's really about how it's going to make me feel. And ironically, the feelings that I was feeling as I was touring this house in my mind, I wasn't in the house. I still had the feelings. I'm powerful enough that I can create those feelings whenever I want to, wherever I am. I could be in a jail cell and create those same visions and that same feeling and really feel it. So the other piece that I think the question and living into the question does for us is it allows us to start to really enjoy the journey. And that's one of the hardest things for people to get their heads around, because they want to get to the end point. They want to get to the destination, and they will do anything to get to the destination except enjoy the process of getting there. And I actually practiced this on a minuscule scale. A friend of mine and I actually made a plan it was a challenge. We're challenging each other. We both were having major financial issues at this time. And we challenged each other we decided we're going to Vegas because I really wanted to go there and she was game. And so we were going to meet there. We live in different sides of the country, but we were going to meet there and we were going to have this great weekend. And neither of us had the money for that at the time. We neither of us really did. So we had to manifest the money. We had to put ourselves through the paces of creating the money for this trip. And every time one of us got a little money in, we were calling and emailing the other like, woohoo, I just feel like I just brought in $200 here, whatever it was, right? But we were having a lot of fun with it. And we did it. We manifested it fast, like in 5 days. And we were on airplanes and we were meeting each other and we had this great time. And actually we got like this beautifully upgraded room and it was in my ideal hotel. And so everything was perfect about it. But there was this moment where she was maybe showering or something, and I was in the room by myself. And I walked to the window and I looked out the window and there was a gorgeous view. And I felt empty. I felt really empty. And it was really disheartening. Because I had been thinking about going there for so long and I felt like I couldn't. I felt like I didn't have that freedom because of the money. And so I had resentment around that and a little bit of anger. And so the fact that I manifested it and I did it so quickly and now I'm there and I feel empty, it was really confusing for me. And when I look back on that, we had a great time, but it was really fun in the challenge. We both had it. We both still talk about it. Remember when it was that one time? It was really fun to see what we could do, to see how powerful we could be, how quickly we could create what we wanted to create at that moment. That was the fun part. That was what was so great. It wasn't so much the getting there. It was, can we do it? Can we actually make it happen? If you think about my question, my eternal question is, what is possible for me? That was a tiny little example of what's possible. I had this goal to go to Vegas. I didn't have the money to do it. And I saw what was possible for me. Can we pull this off in 5 to 7 days? And I did it. I was able to use my power in a way to do that. And that's really what this question and this quest is about for me, is seeing what I am able to create. How big can I expand in my power? What possibilities can I create, can I bring into my life? So it's a really, really powerful question because now I am much better able to enjoy my journey, to enjoy my day-to-day, and to appreciate the challenges more. Because again, in the challenge, there's a mini, how can I use my power to move through this challenge, right? How is it possible for me to create something amazing from this challenge? That's what I did when the COVID shutdown happened a year ago. That's exactly how I approached it in my business. And I ended up pulling a bunch of people together that are facilitators of another program I have in my business. And we created this amazing thing in like 6 weeks. And we helped a bunch of people. And it was something that really didn't exist in that form before COVID hit. So because I'm living in this question of, well, what is possible for me? And how can I use my power to really expand in this situation? That's what really helped me to move through, especially those early days. Because I was scared. I felt like my freedom was taken away, and freedom is a very strong value of mine. I was worried about my son. So there were a lot of things going on for me at that time. But that question of how can we expand through this, not shrink? What's possible for me in this? It's a version of that same question that allowed me to get through that. And even, when I think about my son, and he had such a hard time because that was his senior year and he lost the last 2 months of school and he lost his senior baseball season. He lost prom, and he hadn't gone to a dance with a girl, and he was actually going to ask a girl for the first time for the prom. And there were all these things he lost, and I lost too. I didn't get to see him walk across the stage to get his diploma. Now we did it in another way, fine, but there were a lot of I didn't get to see him play in his senior baseball experience, and it was possible that they were going to be able to play in the city championship again, and that was something that was really important to him and was really, really fun for me as a parent to see. So there were a lot of these losses, and he was in a really dark place, which made me in a really dark place. So I keep coming back to this, but it's because it's the topic of this call today is, what is that quest for you? What is that question in your heart? And I think it's probably pretty similar for most of us. If you're on a growth path, if you are entrepreneurial, or you have a vision that you allow to guide you in your life, your question's probably very similar to mine, if not the same. But you may not be holding it in your heart to the level that you could be, to the extent that you could be, to where you can find joy and find even bliss and fun as you move through your day to day, and let it kind of move you, let it drive you. Now, before we wrap this up, there's this other idea that I want to touch on here that's very relevant. And it's this idea that, I talked about, if you're on the growth path, if you're entrepreneurial, if you have a vision, that you probably having this similar type of question. But not everybody's on that path. In fact, I would say the vast majority of people are not on that path. You're a different individual. You're unique. You're in the minority when it comes to what you're creating with your life. And a lot of people are really, their driving quest, their question that is at the forefront in their life is related to fear. So let me give you an example. In my story about leaving my corporate and the two groups of people, they either wished they knew what they wanted to do so they could go and do it, but of course they weren't taking the time to figure that out, right? They were probably had some lack of clarity, possibly some confusion was being allowed to be present in their life, more present than what their heart was probably leaning them to do. And then there was the other group that was, they know what they want to do, but yeah, I can't do that because I need the insurance. How will I get insurance, or how will I do this, or how will I do that? So they allowed that fear to keep them from saying yes to what it is that they know that they really want to do. And so if you allow fear to be your driver, and you listen to that, and you allow that fear to dictate what you're going to do, that is where you're not living your own life. I mean, you're really not in your own life. You're not in your purpose, probably not in your passion, and it's not the life that you probably signed up for before you came into this physical body. And what a lot of people also do is they run away from the question. There's nothing wrong with I have a ton of fears. We all have fear. There's nothing wrong with having fear. You're going to have fear. But are you going to run away from your fear? Are you going to let fear be in control? Or are you going to move through the fear and follow your bigger quest? And that's really the question. I was working with a client, this was years ago, and she really wanted to start a business. She had started a business in the past, and she sort of abandoned it, and it was fairly successful, but fear got the best of her, and she abandoned it. And she was in a corporate job. She was making really good money in her corporate job, but her heart was still, she was an entrepreneur at heart, and she really wanted to create this other business. So that's why she signed up to work with me, and I was helping her create her business. But she had this big fear. So she hadn't let go of the corporate job yet because of this fear. And the fear was about health insurance. She couldn't get her head around how I can't give up this health insurance. Now, I get that. And yet, how how are so many people like me and everyone and like you probably, how are we able to do it, right? There are insurance plans for entrepreneurs, for solopreneurs. They're out there. Will they be more expensive than a corporate health insurance? Possibly. But the point is that the question for her was, I don't know how to get health insurance. This is stopping me. That was what was driving her to stay in her job, was she didn't know how to get the health insurance. Rather than solving that question. So when you have a fear that is driving you, which we all will from time to time, what we want to do is we want to solve that question. That's a question that can be solved fairly easily. You do a tiny little bit of research and you'll see what your options are, right? And then you step in, choose an option and move forward and allow your bigger quest to lead you. But if we get bogged down by the fear, if we let the fear take over as the driver, we're stuck not living our bigger dream and our bigger quest. So all of this to say, you want to get really clear about what is driving you. What is that big question that keeps you coming back for more, that won't let you quit, that won't let you stop until you get that answer? For me, again, so it's what's possible for me. How powerful can I be? And when those fears come up that threaten to start driving you, what's the question in there? And solve it. Deal with it. Deal with the reason why I haven't solved my question of what's possible for me is because I'm still expanding. I'm still growing. I'm still evolving. I don't know yet what's possible. I haven't gotten there yet. I haven't gotten to the end. There's more for me to figure out. And any quest that is worthy of driving your precious life is probably going to be a big one that you won't be able to solve for a long time. It will keep driving you because you will keep unfolding. But those fear questions that we live with, that we allow to drive us, those things can typically be answered very quickly and moved on from. And so that's what I'm inviting you to look at today, is the bigger question, and then also bringing in the awareness of the fear and solving that question so it doesn't take you down. Okay? So I hope that was helpful today. Now, one side note that I want to let everyone know about, I mentioned this last week, but one of the big fears that takes a lot of people down is the fear of money. And that is why I am hosting a money retreat. It's called The Wealth Within on Saturday, April 17th. It's from 11 to approximately 4 or 5 o'clock. So it's in one day. It's a one-day retreat. It's virtual, so you can just be in the comfort of your home. It's going to be really fun. We're going to have meditation breaks and movement breaks and snack breaks, but we're also going to be doing some deep dives into the money issues, because the money thing will keep you stuck and trying to answer a question that can stop you, can keep you from living into that bigger dream and that bigger goal for yourself. So if you've got some money stuff and you want to bust through that fear and put that piece behind you, I invite you to join me for that retreat on April 17th. If you're interested in that, just email me at jill@ishinekids.com and I can send you the information about that retreat. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you listening, watching, learning. If you have comments about this video, please put the comments in the comment box, or feel free to reach out to me anytime at jill@ishinekids.com. Thanks so much for now, and I'll talk to you next week, same time, same place for next week. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.